Hello, thank you for being there. So welcome to our Top Trend conference about SRE are the cornerstone of your production. So I'm Vincent, DevOps, Production Operating Model and SRE Specialist at Alenia. Worked for 15 years in different banks mainly, BNP Paribas, Société Générale, Natixis, Crédit Agricole, Bank of America. And Brieuc.
So hi, I'm the cornerstone. I spent 9 years at Google as an SRE in SRE leadership, and since then I left it 4 years ago, and I've been a freelancer helping companies with reliability, changing from small fintech to companies as big as Huawei Cloud.
Thanks, Brieuc. So just before starting, I will act as a CTO in a company where the legacy is quite complex, where there is lots of things very complicated to handle in terms of IT. And Brieuc will act in the best role, his own role. So thanks, Brieuc. So as a SRE Director, who did SRE at several levels of management in different companies. Okay, so if you're ready, let's start. Okay, so I heard that SRE is now one of the top trends. It is one of the main conference of the Alenia Production Tour, so I think it's very, very important. Did some Agile in my company. We did some DevOps information. All of that brings some value. Agile to bring the developers and the business together to be faster. DevOps to ship it to production in a secure way and fast way. But now I can see that it's very, very about SRE, but I don't know exactly what it is. Just that Google created that some years ago, but I don't know. So because we are in 2023, let's ask to ChatGPT. So, ChatGPT, what are the pillars of SRE, please? Okay, it knows it. Good news. Is verbose about it, as is always. So it talks about SLO, error budgets, automation, monitoring, incident management, capacity planning, okay, why not, change management, and cultures of collaboration. Okay, definitely in our companies, this is stuff we already do in a way, more or less mature, but I think, yeah, we could probably do something. But to do that, I won't ask ChatGPT for 1 hour with you just watching me. So I will ask to a real expert about it. So Brieuc. Good afternoon, Brieuc.
Good afternoon.
Welcome in my office. It's quite nice. Just missing some windows, but
I have a nice office with nice people.
And I need you actually to start deploying SRE. I would like to start doing incident management, automation, monitoring, because I think this is really what I need in my company. Can you help?
Sure, that's what I do for a living, so no problem. However, I would start with a few questions. In particular, do you have a precise goal that you want to get out of SRE? Do you know why you're doing it? What makes you think an SRE can help you? Because if you get started with, okay, I read about this SRE thing and I want to do that because it looks cool, that's very different from I have a precise goal, like making things more reliable or automating more. Or you mentioned, you want to do some automation and monitoring. Are these goals or are these means to an end?
Okay, so you're asking me why do I want to do that? People are always asking why. So honestly, my business is complaining almost every single day because it says it's not working, but at the end of the day, actually, it works. We have lots of incidents, but business, actually, we get outcomes. It works anyway. So I think with SRE, we need to be better at monitoring, incident management. We need to be a bit better, but I don't believe that we can target a zero incident model. Incident will ever happen. So I need to help to enhance that, but I don't think we can do a revolution. So what I want is really SLO, monitoring, automation, and need your help to deploy that at scale in my company.
Okay, that's That's best practice, it's true. And those things are definitely pillars that ChatGPT got kind of right. But I miss a business goal here. I have the impression that we're making monitoring and SLOs a business goal per se. Is it really what you're after, or do you want things to work better, or something else? I hear that your business is complaining. Is it a goal to address to make them stop complaining by showing them it actually works, or is rather the goal to make it work better?
Actually, I all of that.
Okay.
All of that. Yeah, to do better. And I would say for my business, them calling me every day to complain about something wrong. That would be my main objective.
Okay. Okay.
But I need to understand, I think, a bit more what is new on these pillars with SRE. I think I need your help maybe to start.
Yes, we'll get there. And actually, they are mostly right, but there is a lot of confusion on the internet, and you can see it in ChatGPT's answer. So if I modify it a bit, and I focus on the essentials based on your needs, you can see that you mentioned your business is often complaining, saying that it doesn't work. You don't seem to agree with that. So the first pillar you will use is the business SLA. It's basically a conversation with the business where you decide what is good enough, what is sufficient work, and how much effort am I willing to put into making it work better. That's the first aspect.
Okay. So with business SLA and error budget?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I think what you said, I realize that me as a CTO or the CIO, we are the only ones really talking to our business about what they are expecting. BAs, product owners, of course, they are talking to the business, but it's about project, about design. It's not about what they really need. It's not about their daily routine. So I think, okay, on this one, I can get what we are not doing today and SRE might bring.
Yes, yes, that's definitely the first one.
But error budget in that, what it is?
Yeah, error budget, it will be, once you have determined a particular target, how well does it need to work, you'll say, okay, it means it can be down, I don't know, a few minutes per month or a few hours per month, and you can use that target to say, okay, I still have some budget this month, so I can take a bit more risk, move a bit faster, do some tests, while if you're under target, then you will be more conservative. There is also a very wrong use of that notion that unfortunately you find a lot on the internet. It's this notion of if you consumed all your error budget, then you stop the development and you fix. And before that, developers do whatever they want. And that's a pretty bad pattern, first because nobody actually ever does it. And second, because it results in stop-and-go investment. You're in the red, you will invest a lot in reliability. I'm back in the green, I don't care anymore, I'm a cowboy. I go back in the red, but I'm paying the consequences of bad decisions of 1 year ago. So that part is the bad part of SLO. The good use is the conversation with the business.
Okay. Okay, so you don't believe in the magic wand, just SLO is green, do whatever you want, and SLO is red,
absolutely
stop everything.
Not. Correct.
Okay.
So if we move on to the second pillar, observability, that one is pretty well known. There is a lot of talk about it. It boils down to knowing when your system is broken and finding quickly why it's broken.
Okay. Actually, in my company, and I'm not the only company like that, we have thousands of alerts every day. Red ones, which are working. Green ones, actually, it's broken. Of course, for one product, one application, we can do task force to solve that. But at scale, because we are talking about hundreds of developers, hundreds of critical applications, thousands of non-critical applications, I don't know how to start with observability. What do I need to start to make that at scale without focusing on every single application and putting experts everywhere?
So there are methods for that, and we'll get into it. That said, you need a few principles to communicate to the teams so that they can each work on their own product. And one of the key principles to avoid that problem of I have thousands of alerts that nobody cares about because they are not that important, it's to alert based on symptoms. That is, my application doesn't work, not based on causes, my hard drive is broken. And so if you create cause-based alerts with broken hard drive, too much memory usage, you will have a gazillion of them. But you can focus on a couple of alerts, usually 3 or 4. You will have a decent monitoring for a high-quality service, telling you that service is returning errors or is very slow, and that's it.
But okay, but in your experience, this is what you observed when you work for Google or other company?
Absolutely, yes.
Really relying on 3, 4 signals?
Yes, yeah, that's really the basics. Many Google services use only this for critical alerts. Then there is more subtlety for preventive maintenance, etc. But for, to detect that something is broken, usually 3, 4 alerts for a simple service, that does the job.
Okay. Okay. So I think I get it. Next one, it's post-incident improvement. For me, it looks like ITIL. Is it something different? That incident and problem management we know?
No, it's very common with ITIL. That part is a complete overlap. It's about writing incident reports about what happened, why it happened, what we can do to prevent it from reoccurring, or to mitigate the damage if it does. Other than that, it's the same thing.
Okay. Very well. So I go on with automation. I think I don't need your help on this one. We need to automate to save money, or to make sure that people doing manual stuff are now working on added value actions. This is what you mean with automation?
Good. Incorrect. Well, it would be true at the scale of Google or Amazon, for example, when you can write some automation and spend less money on the automation than you would spend on doing the manual work. But actually, the primary reason for automation, in many cases, for smaller players, it's to limit the amount of mistakes that you make. Once you automated a procedure, you eliminate human error, hopefully. I have to confess that if you make an error in the code, it will be an error at scale, but hopefully you should find it pretty quickly. So the main point of automation is to eliminate errors, and as you're learning, you have incidents, you want to avoid reoccurrence of the same problems, you can bake in the knowledge in your automation. Okay, so you're doing automation for security, mainly. Okay. Really one of the first time I see that this way. And the last one, what is it? Fast and robust deployment. I don't see why it is in SRE and not about DevOps, this one. Good question. Actually, there is a lot of overlap between SRE and DevOps and a lot of confusion there. Personally, I don't put too many labels on things, so I'm comfortable saying it's a DevOps thing. What really matters is to first deliver frequently. Not do deliveries every 6 months with a 1 month acceptance, because then you embed 6 months worth of changes, and so it's very difficult and risky. So deliver frequently, be able to deliver fast when you have a hot fix. Something is broken, you change the code to fix it. You must be able to push it fast to production. Be able to roll back very quickly. You push the bad release, come back. That must be very, very fast. And the last one, it's what I would call the secret of the availability of big tech. That's one of the two things, and it's not actually a secret, it's just that nobody pays attention, but they talk a lot about it. But everybody is too busy paying attention to all those other things. So why is Google, Facebook, Netflix, Uber, etc., why do they have this amazing availability that others don't have? The number one difference is that they are very good at deploying in ways that mitigate the damage if there is a problem. They don't do so much testing. They ship broken code to production all the time, but nobody notices, because when they do it at very small scale, it will break 0.001% of their traffic, and nobody will see anything. And then they will roll back and happy days. That's one of their two, I would say, most powerful techniques. The second one is actually on my next slide. It's the unknown 6 pillar. Okay. And that one is the one that nobody talks about. Okay, but yep. Don't tell me that I need to hire a SRE to develop things. I already have hundreds of developers doing development in my company. Please don't be the one that would tell me, dude, find a 5-leg ship to develop instead of my developers. So you might not need to, but most SREs I know, most good SREs that I know, would actually be able to do some development, or at least they can do system design and architecture. They will not necessarily write the code, but that skill is actually very important. It doesn't mean the SREs need to do it, but someone needs to have that skill. Either the developers have it, or the SRE has it, but if you want reliability, it starts with a good design. And that's the other half of the big tech, quote-unquote, secret. That one is less well-known because to them it was so obvious that they didn't even write it in the SRE book. It's implicit in the SRE book, and when people from Google go work somewhere else, they're like, oh, wow, your design sucks. And that's because they don't talk about it, because to them it's so natural.
Okay. I will need some input after about how really you do it concretely, and maybe the audience will ask some question as well about that at the end. Okay.
So, yeah, a last point is that we mentioned the 6 pillars, but don't see those pillars as a checkbox exercise, like, you fill those 6 pillars and you're good, everything will be magic and reliable. Don't forget that the design, which is arguably more than a pillar, is really critical. And it's actually the hardest part to do. It's cultural, it's not just technical, it's getting the culture so that people with good design skills can influence junior developers who don't have that experience, for example. And that's the roof. Without it, you don't get reliability.
Okay, so if I understand what you said, that you mean that an SRE needs to focus about reliability first, and then to do that, to enhance the reliability of the system, it will rely on monitoring, incident management, design influence, all of that. So you mean that it's not the other way around. You mean that if I do monitoring, automation, incident management, there is no proof that you will really enhance the reliability. This is what you're saying?
Yes, correct. If you do all those things, you will miss half of the benefit of SRE, if you do only those things.
Okay. Glad I called you before starting anything in my company. Very well. There is no music, sorry. So.
Woo, 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 woo.
Thank you. Looks like we have an outage right now. Let you read. In the meantime, up. It seems that, yeah, the credit card payments are not working anymore. I think glad you're there. You didn't run away, actually. So I will ask you a bunch of questions about what's going on right now. And I mean, not about the incident itself, but about how an SRE can work on that. What is the added value of an SRE on that one, when it will be over. Actually, it's quite fast when we read that on the screen. Okay. So, seems like it's over. It's not clear, but... So for the one who can't read the screen, because I think in the front of the room, it's not easy. So we had a severe outage, credit card payments that don't work. It was some kind of a long conversation. Good news is there is a single chat room. Most of the time there is not. So that's the good news. But definitely it was very, very confused.
Well, there is only one that you're aware of.
So tell me, what, as an SRE, what you are looking for in an incident like that.
Of course. So the things you will be looking at after the incident is basically the four times on the slide, plus the one which is the time when you will decide what to change. So you have the times that you took to detect and notify the problem, the time you took to assign it to someone, to say, okay, you're responsible, the time it took you to diagnose after you assigned it, to say, okay, I found the cause of the problem, or I have a good smoking gun, and how long did it take you to restore. And after you have done that breakdown, you know what to work on when you will change your design.
Okay. So if we take back to the incident.
So if we analyze this incident, first the time to detect and notify. As you can see on the chat, the detection, it was a customer service agent who called. So users were complaining, escalated to customer service escalated to engineering. That takes time, so we don't know how long it was, but it was probably several tens of minutes or hours. There was no automatic notification. It was all humans talking to each other after a user was, called you. The second one is the time it took to assign the problem to someone. Who was in charge? And you know, did you have a guarantee that someone will react? Here it arrived on a random chat. People may or may not have taken it. Actually, it was lunchtime, you know, so it's very possible that the developers were having lunch. And so you didn't have an on-call person to receive that problem and take care of it. So it was lucky that somebody did something. And that time to assign, actually it was never really assigned, because as you can judge from the chat, it was a bit every man and his dog trying to do something. So there was no clear owner of the problem. Then you have the time to diagnose. Between the problem report and the time when Felicia said that she had a good theory about what was going on, it took about 9 minutes. That was pretty long. And you can see from all the discussions that it was very unclear what the status was. Nobody knew really, is it working, is it not working, maybe it's this system that's broken, maybe it's the network, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Nobody seemed to have a dashboard telling them, yeah, the network works, the queue is full. There was none of that. And you had too many cooks in the kitchen who were asking questions, trampling on each other's toes, but not really making meaningful progress. And for what it's worth, this is not the exact words, but I've seen this actual situation. And they made it worse by doing a Zoom call in the middle of the incident, where they spent 20 minutes throwing ideas and not doing anything until engineers started saying, well, you know what, I will stop listening to that call and I will do something. And so there were a lot of unverifiable conjectures, probably for lack of monitoring. Finally, the time to restore, you can read in the dialogue, but when somebody started to say, okay, I will do something, it took about 5 minutes until somebody said, okay, it seems to work now. So that's all those times, and that will fuel your reflection about the time to design. Now, if we talk about design, what should we change? So we said the time to detect and notify was hours maybe, or tens of minutes. Time to assign was infinite, but they worked it around. Time to diagnose, just 9 minutes. Time to restore, 5 minutes. So if you do only one thing, do something about the detection. Detect the problem automatically and quickly, and assign it to one person. And that alone, it will crush everything else you could do in terms of recovery time.
Okay, but because I agree, we don't know exactly when it started because it's just reporting from customer calls. So we don't know probably for hours before. But you said it's about 14 minutes between the detection and the mitigation. I think it's quite okay. We in a big company with several teams involved, in 40 minutes, we were able to understand and fix the solution. Do you think that we can really do better with SRE? Because for me, it's not that bad.
Yes, you can. In my experience, for a simple outage like this, it's about, when I was working at Google, it would be a one-man show to sort this out. 2 minutes diagnosis time, 1 minute fixing time, so it's doable. Now, do you need to do it? That's another question. Okay, well, that's the question we will try to address right now. I propose you to stay. But first, maybe before going on, I don't see, what do you mean with SRE on that? You mean that an SRE can work on the incident process and the technical part to solve all of that? This is what you mean? Yes. An SRE will be able to guide the teams to do it, or excellent SREs will be able to do it themselves, but then that's your guy who can code, right? Okay. Because it was not obvious for me, SREs, usually I see that more tech guys, not specifically like process guy. What you mean? Both. It's both. Okay. It's a very good point, and it's actually both. Here, for example, you can see one of the problems is that the hypo in the room, so highest paid person in office, kept just asking, is it working now? And they didn't know the guy was Captain Useless pretty much, and SRE would tell that person, hey, get out of the room and let those people work. Okay. I'm not sure I want to hire someone who would tell me to get out of the room, but I will. We'll see. So let's stay there and talk about the post-mortem. I would really like to do what we can do in the design phase. How can I reduce this time of detection, which was about more than 1 hour in this real incident? How can I do better than this 50 minutes and where we didn't communicate, actually? Did you have complaints about that, about the total downtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so how you can do, there are multiple techniques that you can use, but they all boil down to what I explained earlier, which is using the symptoms of the problem, detecting the, you know, that the application is broken, not that a hard drive broke or that a CPU is full. And one of the most popular techniques that would work pretty well in that case is called CSI, client-side instrumentation. What is it? In the case of a web front-end, or in that case it was credit card machine. So in the case of a credit card machine, it would be after each transaction, the credit card machine would send you a little piece of information saying, I just did a transaction and it worked or it failed. You do statistics on that, you see what is your failure rate. As soon as it's a bit high, you know you have a problem.
Okay, but if I do that, I know that my ops guys will say, okay, I will be spammed by tons of alerts. Some of them are not relevant or not that much important. And they will see that as extra work, which is most of the time useless. So I'm not sure that I can do that and put some pressure on my ops to handle this kind of alerts from the CSI you are talking about. So what could I do differently?
So if you want to push it further, and that touches your question, your earlier question about how can we recover faster, you could automate the failover based on the signal of your CSI. So instead of paging your support team, you could trigger some failover, as they did here, which in most cases would be the right action to take.
Okay, so you tell me that now my ops are okay, but my developers need to do something. Actually, we know that I know that we have a very legacy application that it won't be that obvious to do, to revamp everything and stuff like that. And my developers will say, I'm already busy on my project. I don't want to take days, maybe week, 1 week or 2 weeks to do that, whereas it never happened. And if it happens, it was 15 minutes anyway. So the same, I'm not sure that we are moving the problem to the dev side.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's a very valid point. Now I'm hearing something different between your developers, your operations, and your business. The business is complaining that 50 minutes was too long. The operations are basically telling you that it was okay. And the developers are also telling you that it is okay. So what does the SLO say?
We don't have a SLO.
Then it's time to go talk to the business and figure out what should be the target and how much money or effort or delays they're willing to put into it.
Okay, so for you it's a business decision to take?
Yeah, absolutely. What do they actually need? And once you know what they need, what are they willing to pay for it in terms of delay for features or actual headcount? And then you can make informed decisions.
Okay, so I'll go back, up. I think that's one of the main points of what you say is that SRE must be seen as a cornerstone of the production, connector between all actors. So SRE, you tell me it's not a developer, but needs to be able to talk to a developer or software engineer. It's not a DBA or a sysadmin, but it needs to talk to a system engineers. He needs to talk to application production engineers because he handles incidents or needs to be able to enhance that process. Talk to managers because managers always have something to ask. Business owners, but actually they need that because they need to report and to have the vision. Business owners because they create the product, and business users because they are the very first one to suffer from the reliability. So to what you say is that SRE is there, first of the meaning is to do the connection between all these actors?
Yes. Do the connection. So it's a job that requires good soft skills to talk to all those people. And good SREs, as you just said, a good SRE is a Swiss Army knife. They can do a bit of everything. They're very generalist. Now the good SREs tend to not talk a lot and do nothing. They also do, but they also rely on the teams to execute.
Okay, and what you observed in your career and your experience is you do that how? Is the SRE just meeting people one-to-one? Or how does it happen? How does it make that connection between all actors? Is it putting everyone in the same room? What kind of stuff did you observe with the SRE?
So it depends a bit on company culture, but since you will have to lead all those people and make them come to an agreement, it's usually useful to put them in the same room rather than, you know, doing a full mesh of one-on-one meetings, and then you say something in one meeting, and in the next meeting with the next person you say something else. It's not very efficient, so it's useful to put them together. But sometimes, since some developers can have a rough user interface, you might need to meet them one-on-one first.
Okay. Okay, and because all of that, it's lots of people, actually. So it means that for you, SRE is mainly important in big companies when there is a big IS with lots of stuff. Because honestly, most of that, we don't have, honestly, all of that in this way in all the companies. So you said that it's an important role mainly for big companies?
Not necessarily. We have been very useful in the fintech of 500 people, for example. So it really depends. But you can also adopt SRE principles without having an SRE role. You can have one of the developers take that role, for example, if they have the skills. And there are different operating models that can all work. Like, for example, Amazon doesn't have SRE jobs. They follow SRE principles, but it's the developers who do it. Facebook, Google have SRE jobs. So it really depends on company culture, what will work best for you, and what's your starting situation.
Okay. Very well. So thank you. Before, we didn't finish yet, but we have a bunch of questions before to make sure you're all there. First question, in your companies, if you can raise your hand if you have SRE role officially defined in your company. Okay, on the first rows here. Interesting. So, thank you. So not that much, but quite a few. Okay. Do you have, either you have SRE or you don't have SRE, do you have SLO defined for the people who raised or didn't raise their hand? Do you have SLO defined? Okay. Thank you. So we have one person with SLO, and so it's just for you, the question. Dedicated question. Is the SLO red sometimes? Is it red?
I think it's everyday red. Today, I think what you suggested earlier is to review the SLO, and that's really what definitely is missing, because without even saying SLO for the last 10 years, it's not what they expect in, sorry. So I was saying that, yeah, we have SLOs, but are they relevant? Are they useful on a daily basis? I wouldn't say so.
Okay, I think that's not that a bad news, because you know that your SLA is red, at least you know what it is, and you have an eye on it. I think that some of companies have SLO and are not even monitoring them. So at least this is a start.
Yeah, that's true. But that's also a very good illustration of the point we were making earlier, that, you know, it's not writing SLOs that will make things more reliable. And that's the trap. You know, many SRE initiatives fail here because they hire SREs to write SLO, do automation, do all those things. They don't really know how to do it, so they write SLOs, and, well, the SLO is in the red, and then what? What? Nothing.
So, okay, so now we will talk about how to start. So, because we saw SRE, we explained a little bit of what it could be. It's impossible in just 30, 45 minutes to explain all of that. But we wanted to focus on how to do it. So, first point for you, Brieuc.
Yeah, actually, it's don't be like you, but...
Yeah, we changed the sentence. So, don't be like me. I mean, in the role we played, I asked Brieuc to start doing SRE, whereas I didn't know what it was, SRE.
Yeah.
So don't be like me.
But so, yeah, before starting and hiring SREs and, you know, having a bunch of those people who have maybe a nice pedigree from Facebook or whatever, first define what you want to get out of it and make sure whoever is giving you budget agrees with that. Otherwise, you'll get into a lot of trouble, you will not get any results, and you will waste a lot of money.
So for you, it relies on the people who are the lever on the budget.
Among other things, yes, there is of course what you want, but there is also, you know, at some point somebody will ask you, what are you doing with that money, right? What's the outcome?
Okay, and for example, when you were in Google, do you know how it was, because the ops guys, at least in the bank I worked for, it's very difficult because the ops guy can have different objectives than the dev guy, than the business guy, and the businesses in general. So is it just the budget enough, or how do you do it really? Do you have examples?
How do you do what?
Yeah, how you define this SLO? Who is doing it?
Oh, so the SREs will usually do it by working with the business. Now, again, when I say define the objective, it's not even defining the SLO, it's what do you want? Do you want more reliability? Or do you want to have SLOs to prove that your system is actually already working well enough? Or do you want to do automation for its own sake? Do you want to tick the SRE box because it's the buzzword of the day, to attract candidates maybe? So you have to know what you want, why you're doing it.
Okay, second point is define SRE role and the job description. At scale, you will need it. I will explain this one. We help for SRE for different companies, and honestly, every time something is working, bringing some values, it's when there is an official SRE role. It's very, very hard to do reliability if you don't have a role, because everyone will feel either concerned or not concerned. Starting by defining a role, appointing some people on the role. I know we can discuss about that, and it's Amazon, you said it's a counterexample, but I would say don't try this at home. If you are not prepared, if you are not mature, if your cultures, your legacy is old and cultures is not like Amazon, it will be very difficult to handle reliability as a project and streams. You need to rely on people, give the job, define the job, and then start. And it means that don't forget the roof. People who need to focus on reliability will use monitoring, automation, incident management, and the expert on these pillars to go forward. But if you don't do that, you just use the pillar and the people you already have, most of the time it's very, very complex to have some value. And I said it is important at scale because, again, for small companies, very small ones, I'm sure that you can do reliability with your developers or product owners if you have a good agile transformation with clear business streams, stuff like that. It's not that necessary, but most of the time when it's very legacy, define a role and start with SRE. Next one, what is a good SRE?
Yeah, so as we discussed earlier, right, it's someone who has good leadership, relationship skills because they will need to talk to a lot of people and convince a lot of people. Obviously, they need to know observability, SLOs. The one to not forget, and that you see missing in most job descriptions, is that they need to have good system design skills. And I would say the perfect SRE, it's a Swiss Army knife who has a lot of skills. As you pointed out, it's difficult to find, and I would add it's very expensive usually. Those who know what they're doing, they are much more expensive than developers actually. So my advice is, if you want to get value out of SRE, hire a few excellent ones, not a gazillion mediocre ones. Because you need to have people who really know what they are doing, not people who just read the book and think that they know. Otherwise, you will not get results. And since you will have those very expensive people, then you will need to empower them to use their unique skill and not spend their time doing the stuff themselves, stuff that everybody else could do, because it's too hard to convince people, so they go ahead and do it themselves. Then you're paying a very expensive person to do something that a developer 2 or 3 times cheaper could do. So you should really focus on just a few and then really empower them and, you know, follow their recommendations. If you don't trust the approach fully at that point, try it on a small project, on something not that important, to see if you're comfortable with it.
Okay, so first I could think that an SRE would be a tech guy doing some tech stuff and close to developers, and actually what you said, it's mainly a person able to have good relationship with lots of actors. This is really one of the main soft skill, which is a hard skill for SRE. It's be able to understand people, actors, and act on the design. Okay.
But the technical part is also very important. You know, they need to have a very good mastership of the architecture, the concepts at least, even if they cannot write the code themselves.
Okay. About the second part of your question, it's interesting because usually we have the question, what is the best target operating model for an SRE? And actually the only answer is it is the one that empowers your SRE. though the target operating model where your SRE will be able to modify the design, the code, or to make it, to be able to modify it with other people. And it really depends of, first, your cultures, where, in which team is it more likely to be able to change things, and it's about your legacy as well, how legacy it is, how hard it is, what are the technical architecture challenges you may have. So it will depend. I will still zoom on some of them, the three most common ones. The first one is, for example, NatWest here, it's COE, so as a center of expertise. They put SRE in a central teams, able to act like a superheroes in different kind of teams and tackle specific subject everywhere within the IS. At NatWest, this is one of the things that worked because they are very, very good for that, recognized for that. So when they go into a team, it's for a specific problem, and it's the way the balance they found to be efficient. There is the dev side. On the development side. So Amazon, you talked about it a little bit. It's very specific, and I think it requires specific cultures. Actually, at Amazon, almost all developers are on call every day. So it means that you should be prepared for your developers to be on call every day, all day long. So all know the companies are ready for that.
Not all developers are on call every day, right?
But more that
every day you have a developer on call, but not always the same one.
Yeah, but much more than what we found in the other banks. But you're right. I wanted to put banks on all the examples to help, but LG Markets, on the dev side here, the SRE is linked to squads. So you can have an SRE, which is a mix between the COE and to be in Amazon, where you are mixed into the squads. So with this example, the SRE, it's a specific role, acting on 4 to 5 squads. So it's really like we have UI, UX designer more and more, especially on website. SRE could be like of the same thing, but about reliability. He has a word to say on every single reliability aspect of the product he's supervising. And is there at the backlog planning, is there during the review, during the retro, if it's agile at scale or kind of safe, is there the PI planning? So that's why it's 4 to 5 maximum, because at some point you can't do all of that. But it's really how you can find your balance. And on the operation side, you have Google. Important to remind that on Google, SRE is a specific team. It's not just you build it, you run it with everyone at the same time. It's you build it, you run it, but with 2 different teams, dev and ops. You have BNP Paribas, which is definitely on the operation side, and Bank of America as well, who put that role on the ops side. Just a small stop on that one. When I said ops, I'm not talking about infrastructure, actually. Ops here, it's more about application production. It's not the sysadmin, the DBAs. It's usually not this kind of operation we are talking about. It's the people supporting the application day after day, but not the infra part. It's important because operations, it could be understood both ways. So in all these 3 examples, it's not pure infra. It's more application production.
I'd like to highlight a very important word in what you just said, and that's where most SRE efforts stumble in companies that try to adopt it. It's the word change. And companies hate that, right? You want a bit more every day of what was happening yesterday. But if you want to have the benefit of SRE and to have value for your money, you will need to change organizationally, not only technically. And that's the difficulty. It's to not just add something to whatever is already here, it's to let them push the walls a bit.
And last one, how do I measure return on investment?
Very good transition. So, yeah, how do you measure return on investment? I would say you have 2 options, and that ties back to the very question at the beginning, which is what is your goal, of course. So you have 2 kinds of situations. Either your production is on fire and everybody knows it, and at that moment nobody will come and ask you, why do you have SREs, what are they doing? It's very obvious, there is no question at that moment. If they do their job correctly, at some point you will reach that state where it's working, it's not exploding, but you're still in a minefield. You're running happily in a minefield, okay, nothing blows up, and then people will come and ask you questions. Well, why do we burn all that money on engineers? Well, to remove the mines. And at that moment, you need to have an answer. And one of the good ways to answer that question, you know, everybody struggles with, well, how do you prove a negative? Well, there are no outages anymore, so what can I tell you? Mission accomplished? Well, not exactly. What you can do is a notion borrowed from risk teams, is to create a risk register where you have all your risks, all the landmines that are not blowing up, but you know they're still here and you need to address them. And then you can come to the decision makers and say, okay, what about those risks? Do you accept them? Are you happy with that? Or do you want us to fix them? And that's how you will show your value.
Okay, so you take a risk management approach to steer your SRE. Okay. So, thank you. So we want to spend some time on that bullet points because I think this is something which is not that shared even when we read some SRE. And it's a complex question because it's how you do SRE in big companies where you are scaling issue. So that's why we spend some time on that one. And so now I think we have still a few minutes to answer the questions, if we do have questions.
Either you can read the questions on the screen, or if someone wants to raise a hand, you have the mic.
I will read the question, you will do the answer.
Interview with Google. There is no really fixed career path, but definitely most people who become good SREs, they start either from a developer background or from a system engineer background, usually with some affinity for the other side. So it can be a sysadmin with interest in development, developer with interest in sysadmin, it doesn't matter, but that's where you start. And then, you know, you become SRE by doing it.
How did you become SRE?
By accident. I left the startup that I created. I had been CTO for 7 years, and Google sent me an email. They were sending me emails every 3 years, and it was perfect timing because I had no plan and nothing to do. And so I said, okay, I will go to Google for 1 year. I'm interested in the company. And went for the interviews, landed in actually the first SRE team of Google. The whole SRE thing is a spin-off of that team. So it was a bit by accident.
Okay. SRE are often perceived as superheroes with a full stack expertise, wide from dev to run. Do we agree this is more a myth than a reality?
In successful big tech companies where it actually works, like Facebook and Google, it's true. In many companies that spend a lot of money on SRE without success, it's not true.
What about the use of AI and machine learning for SRE? Could they enhance performances on error detecting time until they become the seventh pillar?
No! Absolutely not. No, let me be more serious. I literally spent 1.5 years in a research center with AI scientists who were trying to do that. And they were pouring millions of dollars into AI research to do what they call anomaly detection, which actually is a solved problem. In the Googles, Facebooks, etc., they solved it decades ago without any AI. So that's not very good use of AI in my opinion, because there are simple solutions with basic engineering. Now, when you come to root cause analysis, it's more interesting. Here, yes, you can actually have some benefit out of it if they manage to crack it. At the moment, it's research. It doesn't give you much, but it's not a completely solved problem, so it's not stupid to do that research.
But I asked this question, but you were talking about 15 minutes for detection. But AI with the use of data and with the mix of data and observability, with the machine learning algorithm, it could help to analyze data and have better detection time, no?
It could have better detection time, but you can also have that better detection time just with a technique like CSI. You don't need AI for that. And the problem with AI, the recurring problem that the researchers were facing is first, they were lacking labeled data to train their AI because operators were reluctant to say, okay, this was a good alert, this was a bad alert. So that was one of the problems. And the other problem was that AI was reporting everything that's not normal. It detects anomalies, but is it an anomaly that matters? In big production systems, anomaly is the norm. You know, think of it. If you say a hard drive will break after 3 years, if you have 3 hard drives, they will break after, one of them will break after 1 year. If you have 300 hard drives or 900 hard drives, you will have one breakage every day. If you have millions of hard drives like Google, hard drives will break every minute. So if you have an AI freaking out each time a hard drive breaks, that's a problem.
Okay, and maybe because it was about AI, the question from Xavier, what about AI ops then?
What about AI ops? Personally, I'm not a believer. I know there is a lot of research in that space. I've seen the researchers struggling with the problem. I would say at least for now, it remains research in my opinion.
Okay, so now until now, you see it more as an engineer problem we can tackle the regular way rather than put AI into it?
Correct. And I would say there is a lot of low-hanging fruit that can be done before you need AI. So start with that, and then if you want to go fancy, why not add some AI and try to experiment?
Okay, so that will go the transition with the question from Marjan. We are in 2033. What would Brieuc say about SRE?
I hope it doesn't exist anymore and AI solved it all. But that's a big question of research. That's one. Another one is that if AI doesn't solve it, I hope it will become much better understood and that it will become much more about the 2 things that really matter rather than all that noise about SLO and automation.